There you go.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to your latest instalment of the Gersnet Weekly Podcast, hosted by myself, Craig Gray. This is the Independent Rangers podcast, made for fans, by fans, and all content is free. You can get us over at gersnet.co.uk, where you've got the forum, some articles, and obviously a podcast as well. You can also get us over on Twitter at Gersnet Online as well. We're going to discuss a pretty big week that's in the making for Rangers, and a big week that's just gone past as well. Just before I introduce my wonderful guest, need to give a little message from our sponsors, and that is Forest Precision Engineering. They are a subcontract Glasgow-based engineering company. They've been a big commercial supporter of Rangers for many years, and we're absolutely delighted that they're backing our pod. You can get them over at forestprecisioneng.com. And you can also visit the Forest Precision Executive Lounge, a stunning new hospitality area within the historic main stand. For information on how to book this unique and intimate space, email the club via hospitality@rangers.co.uk. Well, now that's out the way, time to introduce my wonderful guest, Mr. Alec Anderson. Friday night, and you're on the water. I'm on the zero
Got it.
percent San Miguel's.
Got the pyro though. Got the worst pyro in the world, mate. That's. I was trying to get some sparklers, but they wouldn't let me. Morrison's wouldn't having it. Dangerous individual. Yes, but I think we're still buzzing, aren't we? After Wednesday night, 5-0, and the kind of water everywhere on the pitch, and there's fire in the stands, and there's foam. It's got foam stadium. It was like a kind of night out in Ibiza or something like that with the sound of things, but it was actually better than that in the end up, wasn't it, mate?
Oh, definitely. When Rangers win 5-0 away from home, I'm actually trying to think, when was the last time Rangers won by 5 goals away from home in the league?
I had to look it up. Yesterday. I couldn't remember. It was when we beat. Remember we beat Motherwell 6-1 at Fir Park with Sakala get the hat trick.
Aye, well, that was two. That doesn't count. That was 2 years ago. That's an easy answer.
That's what I'm saying. October. It's over 2 years since Rangers have. That's what I was saying.
Was that not a Halloween actually?
How can we not just put teams away? How can we not put 4 or 5 past these teams? This is how rare it actually is for that to happen. So, it was really enjoyable, mate.
Well, one thing about the new manager anyway, 3 league games, 3 wins. What is that? 11 goals, 1 conceded. We're scoring nearly 4 league goals a game on average. It's pretty good. I mean, I've seen some stats earlier about the XG. It's not really something that I particularly look at and think, oh, that's amazing. But I mean, we're pretty much sitting at double since he came in. And I know it's early days and we've only had 3 league games, but you can see even with a sort of depleted front line, the chances that we're creating. I mean, it was, I'm no kidding when I'm saying it was 5 gone in 10 on Wednesday night.
I really was, mate. It was such a lovely change as well. You've done that thing where you've been watching Rangers under Beale for 11 months, but it felt like about 11 years. And it was just that when they get to that stage where they're kind of going through the emotions, it's this kind of verbose type of fit, but almost kind of like periphrastic, you would call it, if it was like English lit or something like that. It's just, they're just convoluted and no getting anywhere with it. And then the other night, everything was counting. Even when Danilo was missing a couple of point blank chances he had, one against Carson and all that, it was, something more is going to come in this. They're building up a kind of energy, underlapping, overlapping, kind of womble and free stuff. And it was just beautiful to watch. And it was effective as well. You knew that they were just going to score more goals. And it was that, what I said in the reaction pod the other night, it was like 46 minutes between the first and the second goal. And then it was like 23 minutes between the second and the third. Then it's like 11 minutes between the third and the fourth. And it was just the time between goals was getting shorter and shorter. And we've arrived there. We're the away team. We've been held up in that, the traffic and what have you. But yet we were the ones that were most ready for it and just wore Dundee down on their own pitch. A stadium, Dens Park, that's given us a lot of problems over the years. And we just absolutely destroyed them. Craig, it was so good, I started liking that kit again, mate. The red kit that we wore in Limassol. I was actually thinking, it's no the worst kit I've ever seen in my life. I'm actually starting to like it now. So I think that's the biggest kind of testament you can pay Clermont. Well, we're just great to watch, mate.
No, definitely. You mentioned there the delayed start. It was a delayed start. I mean, obviously the rain was pouring down all day. There was talk of games being off, games being cancelled, this, that, and the next thing. We all seen that video of the pitch at Dens, with the wee sort of pockets of mud and all that. And then I just seen somebody on Twitter post that picture of Dado Puzzle sliding at Pataudi saying, just get the game on, boys. Just get the game on. Brilliant. But as you say, I mean, we never really had much time to prepare. I mean, I just find it funny that it took them 2 hours to get from St Andrews to Dundee. It's
I,
just like it was meant to be the easiest commute on the planet.
I
Was
didn't
hitting,
even
I think like
realise.
Tony Dockett was like laying out like sandbags and all that, trying to put us off.
I didn't even realise that's where they were staying until I heard Chris Jack of this parish. I heard him talking about it in Rangers Review. And their kind of reaction, they were saying that Rangers were actually at St Andrews. I didn't realise that was the scenario there. And I thought, our friends at certain other clubs would start to, if we had a positive result as we did, you would get the odd kind of more kind of protesty, slightly, might even call it paranoid kind of tweet saying, oh, well, they should just be made to stick to the original, kick-off time. If Rangers can't get there on time, then that's Rangers' fault. Dundee should just go ahead and, Scotland against Estonia style, just kick off and hammer the ball into the net as many times as possible. But to get there and be ready to go and then get taken off the park again, once they've actually got there after all the delays and come back out and just go straight at it and score. As I was saying in the reaction pod, it's like the latest kick-off possible, but we've ended up scoring our earliest goal of the season. I think that just speaks to the turnaround in psychology and mentality that Clermont has affected on this squad of players. And then they carried on, obviously, in the second half.
No, definitely. But that's the thing. I think the earliest goal that we probably scored this season probably turned into actually the latest goal that we've scored this season because
That's
of the
it.
actual delays in new times.
But
Obviously, we need to talk about the second delay there, the pyro you had it earlier there, Alec. I mean, obviously, there's been a lot of talk. So we're talking about certain other clubs maybe be a wee bit of a victimhood. I mean, we did see that. We seen that with Dundee, I think, in the wee shoddy statement yesterday talking about, you know, flares and disgraceful behaviour, this, that, and the next thing. Of course, there was nothing said when Celtic done it a few years ago. Nothing said even when St Johnstone done it, I think last season, 2 seasons ago at Dens Park. Seems to be when Rangers come to town that these things are a problem. And I mean, I can understand people's frustration about it. I was, to be honest, when the teams came off, I was kind of like, I've got a bit of a problem here because, the team's already been delayed. They're setting off flares, kind of knowing that there's probably going to be, I don't think they expected that there was going to be a big delay as there was, but there was maybe going to be 5-10 minutes anyway where they're trying to clear things up or wait for things to go away, whatever. So I was a wee bit annoyed, and then my feelings got just overwhelmingly positive after Ryan Jack scored like 2 minutes after the teams came back onto the pitch. But look, it's one of these things, it's a controversial issue. I can understand people being a bit annoyed, ones that are at the game, maybe people that have got asthma, breathing difficulties and all that. But let's be honest, it does add to the atmosphere, in my opinion. I personally think if you can get it done in a safe, responsible way, why not? I think the problem is the authorities in this country have a very low opinion of football fans. We see them doing government, starting wanting like government summits this week, a bit like after Neil Lennon violently waved his finger at Ali McCoy's 12 years ago. They were wanting a summit for that as well. There's a lot bigger problems happening in the world and in Scotland in particular just now, and this is what these people are focused on. One thing actually that really annoyed me, Alec, when I seen the sort of statement about this was about the people that were actually going to be at the summit. Out of the people that were going to be at the summit, none were football fans, none were from fans groups, fans organisations. So we all know what this summit's going to entail. Of it's just going to be people around a big table saying football fans are scum, they're criminals, are this, that, and the next thing. What can we do to ban them? What's your thoughts on the whole situation?
I think it's fair enough. A government should get involved if there's health and safety, there's serious danger to health and safety at a football match. I thought it looked absolutely fantastic. Let's just start with that. I thought it looked absolutely amazing, inspiring. It looked tremendous, and I absolutely love the atmosphere that the Union bears bring to the stadium. Even though it bring to Rangers in general. I think we really rely on it at times. When there's a lot of old dads like me just hanging about mumping and moaning about things not good. They just keep singing and they keep putting on the displays. I know it wasn't just confined to were ultras, the Union Bears, and the wee bit they were congregated in at the front of the Bob Shankly stand. But I just think it looked absolutely fantastic. But you would expect a government to get involved. It's the fact that it's an SNP government, and I'm not trying to get political about this. It's just they're openly anti-Rangers. It's tried to stir up. This is how governments in all countries are running themselves these days, just to try and make things as kind of partisan as possible. And they're wanting Rangers fans all to be Tory voting, like English nationalists, never mind British nationalists. So if you can get us, a few weeks ago, the Palestine flags and that kind of thing at Parkhead, I don't want to talk about that. It's just flags at a football match, according to Hamza. And we all remember the incident with the fake recording when Rangers are celebrating 55, and that was never really the ferocity with which he went in on that was all about letting people know his allegiances and blah blah blah, and creating division so people are forced to pick a side. That's just how politics goes in so many countries these days. But so we'd have more faith in if it wasn't an SNP government headed by a man with a history of A, supporting Celtic, and B, I mean, just totally just getting totally over the top with us with Rangers FC. So I think I do see that the health and safety aspect of it, and that's basically that, using that term almost has folks thinking, oh, that's woke. Health and safety is so woke. What I mean is, somebody could get their eyes done, you could lose your sight, you could get burnt to buggery and be one of these things. It is dangerous. There's no two ways about that. The problem for the guys like you and me is, even though I'm an old man now who's just kind of happier sitting in the house watching Poirot on a Sunday afternoon instead of going to away games, it's dangerous. That wee bit of transgression, that wee bit of danger is what the attraction, that's one of the main attractions of going to the football, especially the younger folk for the younger boys and that. I remember it myself. It's that whole kind of thing of, you can swear a bit, you can shout abusive stuff, which needs to get cut out in certain aspects. Some of the stuff that's shouted is just horrendous and has got to get stamped out. We've been doing quite well at that at Rangers. But the pyro is part of that. It's almost like if it was approved and you did find a safe way of doing it, I bet it would die out quicker than anything, because it's no winding anybody up, and it's no get that kind of militant feel about it, which is what love. I mean, for me, there's boys there taking their tops off on Dundee at like 9 o'clock on a Wednesday night. That's suicide bombing stuff. That's just what he's doing, So it's just about being a bit mental, basically. And the old meaning, the kind of euphemistic meaning of the phrase mental. So I like it. I thought it created a fantastic atmosphere, but you cannot deny the fact that it really is dangerous. And they brought in legislation, or they brought in bylaws, or whatever the term is, during the summer after Rangers and Celtic at the Scottish Cup semi-final last season had the massive pyros and at each end. But Hampden's a much bigger stadium, and it's funny, it's a bigger crowd, but it dissipated much quicker, the smoke. And I was in the kind of north stand near the kind of divide, so you got a bit of smoke in your eyes and what have you.
You don't hide your money, do you? The north stand at Hampden, you're paying the extra £5 premium for
exactly. I'm having that. I need that for easy ingress and egress. But yeah, it was great. It was all part of the atmosphere, and you just forget all about it at the end of the day. I think I'm always a bit worried about looking at things as they're having a go at us. It's only because it's us. I think it is in a lot of instances. I see SNP government quite happy to kind of play politics with us. But I've no looked into I don't know what happened with various other incidents with other fans at stadiums, because I don't really care that much. But I've certainly seen, as you say, a hell of a lot of pyro at other grounds. And I was having a wee joke. I was making a wee joke about Celtic fans, the more excitable Celtic fans. I'm not saying that they're all like that. Having Rangers should be made to kick off at 7:45, whatever state they're in, however late they arrive at the stadium. But as you say, 2 minutes later, and it's the pyro that is shutting, you're just thinking Peter Lawwell is having a look at this. Because at that point in time, I think Celtic would probably still be 1 each with St Mirren. You're going to gain, 4 points on us and wipe out the goal difference, as you were saying on Twitter. Well, in the space of a few days, that's when Lawwell starts to find wee ways to try and pull us back, and that suddenly you feel like maybe friends in the media will exacerbate and exaggerate the dangers of that pyro just to get Rangers, just get points taken off us or whatever. But it's not going to happen, I don't think. It's just a wee kind of slap handy thing, and a lot of easy politics kind of for politicians in Scotland just now. But I think we need to have a wee think about this one.
As one of the ones, I mean, you're right in terms of the health and safety aspect, and it was a good point about Hampden, because we need to remember, like, that stand at Dundee is probably made out of paper mache, and I mean, there was an element where it was like, it looked as if it was all basically indoors, as opposed to at Hampden, where because it's bigger, it's outdoor. It seems more like outdoors, and like obviously people are tighter and closer together in at Dundee and all that, and I did say this yesterday. It only takes one idiot to do something really, really stupid, which can then ruin it for everybody. So
Aye.
I don't have a problem with it as long as it's done safely, to be honest. But
The first time I saw it to that level was Scotland. It was a Scotland Poland game. Maybe they drew 2 each, and Lewandowski equalised right in the last minute, and that was Scotland out of the Euro 2016 qualifiers. And it was because of the amount of Poles that were in Britain at that time. It was absolutely rammed with Polish fans everywhere. And when they took the lead, they just all come out with the pyro, just like absolutely let it off everywhere. It was all around about you. And I have to admit, it didn't bother me in the slightest. I just thought it was really dramatic, and it really added to the atmosphere. But other people have got different health concerns, and you see it just takes somebody to drop one in the ring thing. And that stand, when I was growing up, I probably went to Dens Park for the first time about 40 years ago, and even back then, we thought it was, the urban myth was that was the stand. They got it off Rangers. When we got the present main stand in the 1920s, we gave that one to Dundee, because it was bent in the middle. Folk thought it had to be concertinaed to fit into Dens Park, a smaller stadium than Ibrox. It's just because of the bend in the road at Sandeman Street outside, but it's the same architect that built the main stand, Archibald Leach. But so that stand, as you say, that's absolutely ancient, and that's with the Bradford City Fire in 1985. It was an ancient, wooden stand that ended up killing 50 odd people who just gone along to football for the day. So you can't. It'll be much better. That main stand at Dundee will have so many inspections, and it will be totally insulated against fire, against pyro, and what have you. But there's no getting away from it. It's a dangerous item.
Aye. Oh well, as we say, Ryan Jack scored 2 minutes after the pyro was gone, which is brilliant. It sounds like I'm starting to go up my door of the road there, like 2 minutes after. Ryan Jack scored the goal after the pyro was gone.
Then Rangers were on fire.
Oh, brilliant, man. But you spoke about being absolutely mental. What was absolutely mental was Sam Lammers and Cyril Dessers both scored in the same match of football. It was incredible. What a goal by Lammers, by the way.
Unbelievable.
To be fair, I will say this. I don't think he looked great throughout the whole game, but then it's like, if he's doing that for his end product, fair enough. He is someone who I do think, he can be easy on the eye at times in a weird way, but then it's like his end product. Sometimes you see that one where like you go to the ball and he's kind of done a wee turn and then he just fell on his backside and you're like, Sam, come on, mate, come on. Then about 10 minutes later he does that. But like, it's a weird one for him because we look at that sort of number 10 position. That's where Beale played him. So obviously Clement's playing him just now. We've got guys there that are out on loan, like Kaji and Lowry. We've got guys coming back like Lawrence. Other players can, I suppose, make up that position. I'm still very unsold on him, and like it's very early days still in terms of we can't just say, yesterday's performance is a turning point. Same with Dessers. Although what I will say about Dessers is that he's now got 2 goals in 4 games, 3 league games since Clements came in. First goal against Hibs was a quality goal. No look pass by Cantwell and then a no look shot by Dessers. And then it was a great finish, I thought, for his one at Dens and Wednesday after a brilliant assist by wee Willie Collum. Thanks for that, mate. But, do you think now that more so Dessers is getting into a bit of a scoring groove, do you think this could maybe be the start of a wee bit of a renaissance for them under Clement?
Hope so, because at the end of the day, it benefits us, Craig. That's the thing. I try never to get too invested in slagging a player. I will get too invested in bumming a guy up, and next thing he's away, he's hopeless and what have you. Because I think the loneliest place to be as a Rangers supporter, a football supporter of any team, is if you're lambasting your own team. More than you have to. We all get frustrated, and they've certainly deserved it. All of them have deserved stick this season. But then when that player turns it around and maybe scores a goal, like Lammer scored the other night, there'll be guys that aren't celebrating and what have you, because it's like, I'm so invested publicly. That's the problem with Elon Musk's X. You're going to end up, you've told too many folk exactly what you think about it. Somebody disagrees and it gets heated, and next thing that's you totally invested in the guy being rubbish. And when he isn't, oh dear. And it's funny about Bert Conterman. This is the old man speaking again, like 20 odd years ago. He was another guy, a Dutch fella, came under Advocat, wasn't wasn't setting the header on fire, wasn't convincing people, but he also scored an absolute belter, a free kick at Dens Park for Rangers as well. I think it was the winner. I think we won 1-0. So I don't know if it's just Dens Park that brings out these moments of genius in a failing Dutchman, but I was so happy for him with the goal he got the other night. But the thing with Lammers and Dessers is that you remember what they did right. You remember the moments they've had right. I remember Dessers that kind of almost hit off him. He scored against Servette at Ibrox. That fantastic ball he put through for Rabbi Matondo against PSV Eindhoven at Ibrox. I remember Lammers scoring pre-season friendlies and scoring against Livingston, what have you. And I remember the game against Hibs, Clement's first game. Dessers gets a standing ovation coming off because he scored his goal, and he's been tightly involved in two of the other ones that we scored that day. And I think it was a wee kind of apology for the Rangers support after him getting booed off the park. The Aberdeen game that saw the end of Michael Beale's reign. But Lammers the other night, I was so delighted for him, and I know exactly what you mean. What he does is, I think he would do. It's when he does. For me, with any player, it's worse when they're posted missing, but you just don't remember them being in a game at all. Lammers, he's got the double-edged sword of he's sometimes posted missing, then he sometimes does something that makes you think, well, he should just have stayed posted missing, mate. That's just he'll dribble himself into the ground, and I'm convinced he's going to score an absolute wonder goal one day. It'll be the only one of his career, but he's got the dribbling down pat. I mean, he does, when he doesn't fall over himself, he's a fantastic dribbler. It's just the end product after that, as they say. His shooting isn't the best. In fact, it's pretty useless. Scarily bad for somebody who's signed to help Rangers in attack, and his crossing, his delivery, pretty poor at times as well. He had a moment last week against Hearts when we're struggling for so long at Ibrox in that game against Hearts where he seemed to kind of bottle out of a tackle or think twice about it, and that just adds insult to injury for anybody who's on his back. But you never know. Clement is affecting such a change just now that we should never write these guys off. We should maybe hope they're good. They're going to improve leaps and bounds. And when you see him doing something like that the other night, you can't deny the possibility of that happening. I love the layoff by Danilo, which I think goes under the radar. He's walking backwards and he's pushing the ball the other way. That's an incredibly hard thing to do. But the wee step inside with the right foot, and then of course the shot with the left foot from Lammers, absolutely perfect. So that the guy's capable. And what I loved was, what can sometimes happen with players who've been lambasted like that is they just go, oh, well, you're still going to hate me anyway. There's a kind of, all right, I'll just go through the motions. He was loving it. He was pumped up. He was straight up to the Bears. The kind of fire starters, the twisted fire starters behind the goal, and he was just giving it absolute loudie, loving it, psyched out his skull, his big, round, kind of pumpkin type skull, with his strange ginger hair. He's a strange looking guy. So he's obviously up for it. He's obviously up for the fight. Whereas, I think the day before, I'm having arguments with guys on Twitter saying, no, I just think the abuse has gone too far. It's now getting counterproductive. And they were saying, how can you say that guy's no shite? And I'm saying, no, I'm saying the two of them are shite. Just, we need to stop abusing them because they're all we've got left. If Clement's playing them, the squad's obviously so thin that he thinks they're the guys. Whereas now I'm going to kind of slowly start to change it and make it that I always said they were going to be great. But I was pleased for them. I was pleased for the two of them.
No, definitely.
Sorry, I know I've gone on too long here, mate. This is the last thing. I'm sorry. But I think you saw the effect of confidence, the effect a moment can have like that. When Kevin Clancy body checked the Dundee fella and was just saying to Lundstram, take it, Lonnie. And Lammers just ran past John Lundstram and said, out my way, Lonnie, I'll have this. And just first time's a cracking ball. I know the park was kind of empty in front of him, but he just, first time ball right down the park to the feet of, perfectly weighted ball, to the feet of Dessers, his fellow booty, his fellow slaggy, and then he fires one in. So it's straight after he scored that goal, he's buzzing, he's looking like a cracking player,
Aye. What you've been saying there, it made me think about a comment on Twitter that I seen, and we've all had this sort of view, it seems, of this leadership group, your Tabs, Goldsons, Barisic, Lundströms. I mean, Ryan Jack, I suppose, needs to go in there, but I don't want to put Ryan Jack in with that group for a lot of things as well, because I think Ryan Jack's been 7 out of 10 all the time for Rangers. I really can't remember him having a bad game. So I don't want to put him in the bracket of he's been a part of so many bad moments as well, because he's not been at fault for most of them. Whereas, unfortunately, for a lot of those other players, they maybe have been a bigger part of it than the likes of Ryan Jack. But in my opinion, I think it's time that we start to sort of move these people on now. Hopefully, we'll get that under the new manager. But I seen a comment on Twitter when Clement came in, and it was basically along the lines of he'll get a good 6 or 7 months out of these players, and then they'll bottle it. And you know what? I actually thought for a second that might actually be the perfect scenario, right? Because if you can get 6 or 7 good months out of these players, right, you'll go on and win a treble in May, right? Because that takes us up to May. And then about 80% of them are out of contract anyway. So they'll not be here next season to bottle it. So it's kind of like the perfect scenario. It's like, I use a good 6, 7 months and say, thanks for your service, cheerio, and get rid of them. That's kind of what I would do. Like, to be fair, a lot of them are getting a bit of a renaissance, but it's kind of like, how long is it going to last? Because we've seen, well, under the last 2 managers, Beale had a good start. That kind of wavered when it came to the big games against Celtic. Gio had a great start. That wavered after the new year. And one thing I'll say with Clement that what he's not had to deal with what the past 2 managers have. I'm sorry, he's dealing with stuff that the last 2 managers haven't really, as a lot of the injury problems. And also as well, I think Clement's taking on a situation that's been exacerbated over a 2 and a bit year period. Gio came in a pretty decent position by the Hibs result, obviously, the week before. Beale came in at a time when, all right, the squad was low in confidence, but we'd only been in a European final, 4 or 5 months previous, whereas Clements came in, and there's just been such a negative feeling around the club since we beat Hearts, which obviously we'll come on to talk about the massive game on Sunday, but pretty much since it, somebody said that the Danilo goal on Sunday, said that was the biggest goal that we've celebrated as like a Rangers fan since Lundstrom's against Leipzig. I would probably say the Scottish Cup final, but to be fair, that's a great point. Like,
Aye.
last season, we never had many big moments. Could maybe say Tav putting us in front against Celtic at New Year, but obviously we don't want to win that game. Scotty Arfield putting us in front against Liverpool. I mean, that's what I do. If I ever see that game back, I just watch the first 1 minute and a half of the highlights and then switch off after seeing Arfield's goal. The rest never happened. But the point I'm trying to make is I think the managers came in and like the worst possible circumstances. You've got, the feelings around Ibrox, that Aberdeen game, the Celtic game, obviously before, but then that Aberdeen game, I'd never seen anything like that at Ibrox before, and I've been at Ibrox for a lot of bad stuff happening throughout the years, mostly bad stuff, sadly. And that was the Celtic and the Aberdeen games were off the scale toxic. So for him to come in, and you mentioned my tweet, like it is early days, he's only been in for 4 games, but it does seem that there's a wee bit of a mentality shift. I love the way that the guy just brushes journalists aside. And I'm saying that now. If I'm getting the chance to be in front of him in like the next couple of weeks, he's probably going to be doing the same to me. But see, to be honest, he can do all he wants to me. As long as Rangers are getting the results, that's all we care about.
It's an honour. It's an honour, isn't it? You know what I mean? I remember talking to a guy once, a Rangers supporter, supposedly, and he was talking about going up to John Brown in Verones. And John Brown saying, because I was talking about Bomber Brown, and that was one of the things on Sunday. I know we're all worried because we're trailing at half time. Tav just missed the penalty, but John Brown comes down the tunnel to do the old tombola draw. Bomber Brown, and the place is kind of like, all right. You give that guy a standing ovation everywhere he goes. Bomber's just an absolute one of the greatest. You're talking about Ryan Jack, 7 out of 10. Bomber's just 9, 10 out of 10 in terms of commitment every single game. Phenomenal player. But this guy got up to him in Verones, and he said, I was talking about how much I love John Brown. I always managed to get him into my all-time 11. And he's like, I don't like John Brown. How no? So up to him Verones one night, I was having a drink, and he's like, listen, mate, I'm just trying to have a drink with my pal. Do you want to just use a bit of 2 minutes piece? And he's like, so that's him. He hates John Brown. I'm like, I would have wanted him to punch me. That's the most John Brown thing ever. If I went up to John Brown in Verones and he was like, oh, how you doing, mate? What is it you do for a living? How's it going? Are you married? What's up with the? I was like, this isn't Bomber. I want the psycho hard man Bomber who's just all business. So I love the fact that Clement, if he totally dismisses your question or takes a mick or whatever, you're thinking, yeah, big man, just do it to me. Do it. I would be as well. He's. But I think I have to point out But the way he's handling the press, the way he's dismissing them, it's with a twinkle in the eye. He's giving them a wee wind up as well. He's saying, I don't mean any offence. I'm playing yous, but I'm playing yous at times. Michael Beale, every press conference with him was the sign above his head would be saying, was kind of saying, Gonna think I'm a real manager. Gonna believe me. Gonna love me. Whereas with Clement, it's I love it. It's like, I just love it. I don't care whether you believe in me or no. I'm only interested in the players in the dressing room. The stuff he's doing in pressers is absolutely fantastic. And it is 100% only because he's getting the results just now. And he's only had 4 games in charge. All his wee expressions and all that because of the translation from the Flemish to English, I'm absolutely loving just now. If we get beaten Sunday, it'll be like, what does he even mean with that stuff about a white page? He's Patter's garbage. But it's right now, every time he opens his mouth, I'm absolutely loving it. And it just oozes a kind of knowledge. As a player, obviously, played World Cup finals and everything. Really great career in Belgium and a wee taste of it in Britain with Coventry and what have you. He's the playing career that Michael Beale never had and the management career that Michael Beale had nothing like in terms of when he came to Rangers after 6 failed months at Queen's Park Rangers. So, but in the immediate sense, it's the difference between him and Michael Beale, and it's colossal. And he's just already, Michael Beale won 4-0 twice against Livingston this season. I don't know if Michael Beale ever beat anybody by 5 goals. And that's him. He's won 4-0 in his first game, Clement, and he's won 5-0 the other night away from home in the league, in the kind of game that we would struggle through. But the way he handles the press, the way in the press conferences, he's given me the belief. And it's when somebody, for example, I can't remember who it was, asked him, it said to him after the Europa League game against Sparta Prague in Prague, he said, "Oh, that's Rangers, so many points, and then you think you can catch Betis?" And he's like, I don't know how many points we've got or where we're on the table. It doesn't matter. No, it's the one game at a time thing. Of course he knows. I mean, it's only 4 teams having played 3 games each. It's no difficult to work out. But it's when somebody said to me the other day after the Hearts game in the presser after that, so that's you 5 points behind. And Celtic now, do you think you can catch them or something like? No, do you think this is going to boost your hopes of winning the league? And as soon as the guy said 5 points, he's like, I don't know what you mean. I didn't know it's 5 points. Is it that's you telling me that for the first time? He just went on about it too much because he obviously does know, And the same today with the pre-match presser for Hearts, not refusing to talk about winning trophies, refusing to talk about even getting to the final, and just a wee smile, there's a wee twinkle in his eye when he's saying to the boys, "Nah, I don't care about that." And of course he does. He lives and dies by how many trophies he's going to win with Rangers. But he's telling his players, he's convincing his players, one game at a time. You need to focus on each of these games. Well, us, I mean, I'm projecting ahead something terrible when it comes to Clement. What's he going to do? How we got get this League Cup won, beat Celtic at Parkhead? But he's given it, no, we need to get focused. I'm going to, sorry, that's the last thing I'm going to say in this, mate. Sorry, I'm going too long. But Martina Navratilova, at the end of her career, when she was trying to beat all sorts of records in the women's tour on the tennis, and Billie Jean King, who's just as big a legend, she'd retired, but they were busy mates, and she would go into the dressing room with her. She was her kind of unofficial trainer. And Navratilova, what she's playing before a semi-final or a final, and she's getting ready for the big game. And Billie Jean King would start saying to her, "Oh, what time is it?" And she's like, "It's 1:05." What colour is that wallpaper? Would you say that's blue or is it green? I think it's blue. Why are you asking me these stupid questions? Then she realised it was to get her focused. Just focus. Don't be going out there thinking about how many trophies you've got to win to beat such and such's record. And I think that's what Clement is the embodiment of just now. And it's such a change from Michael Beale, who I was having to stick up for Michael Beale. I was having to work out ways that his press conferences could be good. Whereas with Clement, I'm sitting there and it's like, well, basically, my wife's just saying, "You better be watching pornography in there." Is it not? Is it that Philip Clement press conference you're watching again? No, it's porn. It's not. It's hardcore porn I'm watching. No, so the big man is absolutely fantastic in the pressers. He really is.
No, he definitely is. And look, obviously we're not trying to get too far. I'll put everyone in a Debbie Downer, right? Because we said when Clement came in, right, he had what I'll say 3, it might have been 4, right, objectives. First one is try and close the gap on Celtic up until that game at New Year. Second one is qualify for the Europa League, and third one's win the League Cup. All right, he's been great so far, but at the same time, in 5 days' time, well, no 5 days, 6 days' time, a week's time, 2 of those 3 ambitions could be gone.
Yeah.
And we could be back to even less than square one. So that's why I'll always say keep our feet on the ground. Like the manager says, it's a marathon, not a sprint. We're doing 26 miles. We're not doing 100 meters, or 38 miles if you want to go across all the league games. But that's the thing as well, and it's amazing how things can turn. Because I said it to the guy that sits next to me at Ibrox on Sunday. I went, all the talk this season about usual how great Celtic are, how bad Rangers are, blah blah blah. I went, see this time next week, we could be 2 points behind Celtic. I'm talking about when I say this time next week, I mean from the Hearts game last Sunday, as in to this Sunday, right? So we could have been 2 points behind Celtic with a game in hand and into a cup final. Now, if you said that when Clement came in, you would go, what, 10 days later would be de facto top of the league and in a cup final. What the fuck are you talking about? That's mad. But that's how quickly things can change now. The only way that was going to happen is if Celtic get beat off St Mirren on Wednesday and off St Johnstone tomorrow. And we all know both are never going to happen anyway, right? But it's the fact that that's still even a possibility and that shows how quickly things can change. Within 2 match days, the whole narrative of the season changes. I said it to it the other day, the guy's already 8 into the goal difference. The goal difference has been wiped out completely. That's basically an extra point. And it's got to the point where if we can match Celtic's results up until New Year, and all Celtic need to do is draw in one game, if we beat them at Parkhead, we're top of the league. So that's the way that I'm thinking. If we can win all our games until then, there you go. But that's how quickly things can change.
But that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. You're talking about keeping your feet in the ground and that kind of thing, and then you go as doing the business at Parkhead, and that's good. That's what it's all about, though. Do you know the man who knows that more than anybody? The man who's exuding that kind of don't get ahead of ourselves more than anybody. It's Clement. He's so good at it, and that's what I'm saying is right now. As I'm saying, if we slip up on Sunday, I'll be the guy's a joke, whatever. It's the hypocrisy of the football fan. Your nerves are just you're putting yourself in the hands of somebody else to try and kind of look after your emotions. It's a ridiculous situation, so you react in ridiculous kind of polar opposite ways. But I think what Clement is doing is just making sure we don't get ahead of ourselves. But right now, I am just reacting to the difference between him and Beale. And it's 4 games. It was so bad. It was such a colossal disappointment. And the other thing with Clement, to hear him talking about the fitness thing, this is what I'm talking about. I'm just openly lying to you, but in the best possible way. He's saying to the journalists the other day, but he's really saying to us, we just see the back of the journalists' heads and whatever. We see the old bald patches and that, but it's Clement is talking to us, and he knows that well when he's at these pressers. They're saying about him, the players aren't fit enough. It's the biggest mystery to me, the biggest puzzle to me in football. But then 2 minutes later, he's going, next question. I think it was Ronnie Esplin's trying to get in there and get it out of him, wheedle it out of him. Next question. So he's basically saying, I do know what the problem is. And I'm just taking it as it's Beale and Beale's team or whatever. I do know what the problem is, but I'm not allowed to say. After that, he's saying it's the biggest puzzle in football. He's just basically wanting to bring it up that these players are knackered and it's not his fault. That the squad's really unfit, and that was devastating for me this season. The first friendly I went to this season was the one against Hamburg, who are second division side and have been for a few years now. And I thought I would have seen more sign. I thought the one thing last season that was apparent, I saw us playing Celtic 4 times because we had them twice at Hampden as well as twice at Ibrox, and they just looked sharper. Not technically better, just sharper. And they've been winning together longer than us. That's always a boon as well for any team. But we're going to get the fitness done. We're going to get the fitness sorted. And then I saw them in these pre-season friendlies against and then Olympiacos, and I thought, okay, pre-season friendlies, you're maybe still recovering from the fitness training you've been getting. But what's happened with Olympiacos and HSV? They've been doing the same kind of stuff, and they're so much sharper than us. Had you come up with a comment, it's the hardest pre-season I've ever had. And I thought, right, okay. I went back to the 90s in my mind. So desperate was I to believe that Michael Beale had sorted out our fitness, because it was said that Gio had given the players a poor pre-season when he had them in pre-season. I thought, right, okay, they're so exhausted. It's like Manchester United's teams under Ferguson in the 90s. They wouldn't start motoring until, October, November, because they were so recovering from this pre-season put into them, the kind of Gull and Sands, Jock Wallace type thing. But no, it just never happened. We've just looked slow as anything all season. And Clement, as a proper manager, is obviously having to bite his lips, bite his tongue to no say it's an absolute disgrace, the state of these players. If you can't get a problem sorted, you just want people to admit that the problem's there, and that's been a breath of fresh air as well.
See, the thing that I like about most, I think, it's not about the problems, it's about the solutions. It's almost as if he's saying to players, right, I know you're unfit, but we're not going to sit here and moan about it or whatever. We're going to sort it. We're going to make you fitter. We're going to make you better. We're going to make you mentally better. Those 4 pillars that he was talking about, and that's for me, that's the best thing. It's about the solutions. He'll say, and acknowledges, there is problems here. What are the problems, Philippe? Well, I think you know what the problems are. You don't need me to tell you the problems because that'll be very good for you. That'll be very good for you.
And he's trying to tell us at the same time, the guys, one of the journalists is saying to him today, that was good for, as you're saying, Dessers and Lammers to get their goals the other night after all the abuse they've been getting. Have they been getting abuse? I don't know about that. Absolutely he knows about it because he's so into the psychology of each individual player, but he's just doing this white page, clean slate thing all the time, just trying to keep everything fresh away from the toxicity that was building up, as you say, at the end of Michael Beale's reign, and just let the guys kind of breathe and we'll see. As you say, it might well, if it all comes crashing down again, then people will walk, players will go. They'll go anyway, as you say, because of their age and their contracts. But I'm just enjoying it just now because of what it's not. But Sunday is absolutely massive in terms of keeping it going.
Absolutely, and we'll move on to Sunday now. Before we go into the positivity of Sunday, I put up a wee start on Twitter. I know you love a start, Alec, so I'll try and get in here before you. We have won once at Hampden in normal time in 12 years in the league and Scottish Cup. Jesus Christ. Ironically, against this Sunday's opponents, 3-0 game in 2019. I think it was actually on this day, on 2019, actually. I think it came up earlier on.
2 goals for Alfie, wasn't it?
Aye, it was, and big Phil Hollander as well. Here's a wee one for you, a wee bit of trivia, Alec. What was the last game that we won in normal time before that Hearts game at Hampden?
4-0 against Queen's Park.
I thought it was 4-1. Did they no score?
Did they?
I think they did. No, like the league, like in the League Cup or the Scottish Cup, major cup competition.
Before that, in normal time, because we beat Celtic in the penalties, didn't we, in 2016? Celtic in the League Cup final in 2011?
No, because that went to extra time.
Oh, so it did. I was there as well. I was there. Aye. That's right. Aye. Yeah, let me think about this. Right. So, last game we won at normal time at Hampden.
Think who did we beat to get against Celtic in the final?
Before 2019. Was it St Johnstone?
No, that was the season before. Motherwell 2-1. And who was one of the scorers that day? Stevie Naismith, the Hearts manager this Sunday. So there's a Hearts sort of theme for the last 2 times that we've actually won in normal time at Hampden.
So that apart from that, it was before 2012, basically.
Right. 2011 Motherwell in January.
Wow.
Morissette scored an absolute belter there goal.
I'd have been there as well. I've been to so many League Cup semi-finals. Aye, jeez, oh man, brilliant. I can't even remember that game. I don't remember. It's
a long time. The point that I'm trying to make is our record at Hampden's absolutely disgraceful. It's terrible.
It's awful, Craig.
We need to get it sorted, and there's no better time or place to do it than this Sunday, especially with a new manager coming in. We're all talking about a change of mentality. Everything's positive. Rangers for me are a team that wins trophies, right? Like growing up, the League Cup was the Rangers Cup. Rangers won it all the time. And it just seemed that no matter what happened, even when everything was against us, we would still win it. I'm thinking back to like the 2008 game against Dundee United, where I was like tearing raging about everything, like Dundee United going a goal up, then we equalised, then Dundee United score again, gone mental, then we equalise, then I get raging because it's gone to penalties, and then obviously Boyd steps up, scores a winner, everything's brilliant. But this is a competition. We've not won it since that game against Celtic. Like Tavernier, if he wins it, he'll have won every trophy available to him in Scotland. People will still have his detractors and all that. I mean, to be fair, it shouldn't have taken him this long to do it. If it does,
it's not his fault. You know what I mean? It's not just his fault.
It's no. Although
the guys had to work under about 15 different managers in the last 2 years.
Although to be fair, he could maybe, I know, Skyry's penalty against St Johnstone, the penalty shootout a couple of seasons ago. But then again, he did have the season of his life that year. So
is that the game that Tav gave us the lead in extra time?
Aye. That's the thing with him, isn't it?
He scored his first penalty in the European final, and he scored in every single tie on our way to that European final after Christmas. The guy's an absolute legend, and I want to see him lifting every single trophy in Scotland more than I want to enjoy it myself almost. And I think it's the fact that the League Cup trophy is a beautiful wee trophy, and it's got 3 handles on it. These 3 handles are coming to symbolise the fact that we need the 3 domestic trophies under our belt so we can then carry on and just get to seasons where we are winning 2 of them in one season, then 3 of them in one season. It's quite amazing that we knew that Gerrard was targeting Europe, a manager who'd never won his own league and had won the Champions League and the Europa League and had scored in the final of both when they were winning them. It was quite kind of apt that he would target Europe to get us going again, and it's almost like we've carried that on. We've been in a European final, like you say, Craig. We won the League Cup 27 times. We've been in the European final since 2012, and yet we haven't won the League Cup since 2012. It's absolutely, it's quite incredible, and I would just love to see us complete the set, because I think psychologically, and we have to do it this season as well, because even you think of the kind of banners that are really disingenuous about the 2 trophies in 11 seasons, there's a lot to be read into that. You've now got, you can cut that and just go, at least we've got 3 trophies. We're not going to be making any banners boasting about it because it's no Rangers standard, but we've got 3 trophies in the last 3 years. You've got the 3, the league in 21, the Cup, the Scottish Cup in 22, and we'd just be squeezing in 17th of December, the League Cup in 23, and stuff like that slowly gets a bit of psychological foundation, bedrock of positivity in there. We've got a manager talking about, was it automatons? What is it he calls them? He basically means muscle memory. Anyway, and that's what you need to do. Just need to know we can do these things, and you're spot on. I'm old man here again, but I remember we didn't win the league for 9 years, 78 to soonest arriving 86, 87. But we won the League Cup 4 times in all the years. And it's almost like this time, the 9 years we went before we stopped Celtic doing the 10, obviously we went through a hell of a lot more trauma in that time, and we're in the lower leagues and what have you. But it was almost like we replaced European football that ended up, we're kind of relying on that. And after we won 21, we struggled. After we won 55, we struggled a few seasons as well, but we're still doing so well in Europe. And it was almost like European group stages were replacing the League Cups as the kind of, the filler, the thing to keep you going while we won the one in the league. But I've just got to the point now where I would always say to folk, no, Europe, you're getting too small-minded when you're concentrating on winning domestic stuff. Now, never let that get in the way of Rangers being great in Europe, because literally the whole point of Europe is the whole of Europe gets to see you doing it. It's a big boys' playground. That's where we want to be winning stuff. When we were doing really well in Europe, it was only the league that counted. And then when we're doing well in the league, well, it didn't matter. Celtic got to the final in Seville and nobody remembers Rangers winning the treble that season. I've been through it all. It doesn't matter. What we're doing doesn't count, because it's us that's doing it. In terms of Scottish, the hysterics in Scotland, we've got to put that to the side and concentrate on what's best for Rangers. And I've always thought it was Europe is the place that's big enough for us. That's where we should be aiming for. But I am done. I am absolutely done now. I want that League Cup. I give in. I do want it. I want the domestic lot done again. And I think, I'm not a man for tattoos, but I think if we get it done, I would go there and get that wee League Cup tattoo on my other arm, for the other tattoo I've got, just because it's got to the point I'm obsessed with it. It's not even a healthy obsession. And that's what I'm talking about, keeping our feet on the ground and taking it one game at a time, why I'm loving the fact that Clermont's got that mantra going, because I just keep thinking about the final, and that's the most dangerous thing you can possibly do when you're in a semi-final against a pretty dangerous Hearts team.
Yeah, you're right, and they will provide a threat. Hearts obviously they did last week at Ibrox. In terms of our team, what we're going to do, I think there will be changes that were made for Wednesday. I think it was obvious that he was resting Cantwell. He probably was resting Ben Davies as well, even though he said he had a slight problem because he didn't want people to know that he was resting him, because that might have sounded disrespectful towards Dundee. So Ben Davies will probably come back in. Cantwell will come back in. Who does Cantwell come in for, though? Does he come in for Scott Wright? Maybe, I don't know, because Scott Wright, there's a lot of similarities to Lammers, in my opinion, in the sense that, he can look good at times, he can serve a purpose, but that end product just isn't good enough. But what Scott Wright does do at the moment is he does provide great balance on like the right whatever wing he wants to play him on. We see him playing at the other side. So I don't know. It's a tough one. Ryan Jack will probably play for how long we don't know. But he done pretty well the last time he played Hearts at Hampden. What's your take on the start 11? Do you think it'll probably be that one there? Cantwell in for Wright and Davies in for Balogun?
Aye, it's a weird one. We're talking about Lammers, and I was saying the fact that he doesn't do himself any favours by trying to be over spectacular at times and phoning his arse, or like that chance he had against Celtic at Ibrox, where he's quick feet to make the chance for himself in the box and then completely fluffs the shot. That Scott Wright, I think, doesn't even do that, and I think sometimes because he is posted missing so long, he almost sometimes can get away, can escape this really the worst of the criticism, because he kind of doesn't show up a lot of the time. He just disappears for ages, and then he will show up with scored in that Scottish Cup final in 2022 and set up the goal for Roof, was it? And one of the extra times that they beat Aberdeen, the semi-final last season, that was then the extra time wins at Hampden. I love Hampden. I know a lot of folk hate it, but I love it for all sorts of kind of historic reasons. What have you? I love being there, but it has Sundays at Hampden for the last 6-7 years ago, absolute trauma. I just don't look forward to it anymore, and I want to get my muscle memory as well, just getting back to remembering what it's like to enjoy it there. But I would have I think Balogun did really well the other night. I was really impressed with the big man. I love him as well as a person. He just comes across great.
Yeah.
But I would have Ben Davies back in there. I'm remembering Balogun the last time he played a League Cup semi-final against a team from Edinburgh as well. He didn't have a great game that day, although very few of them did, just after Stephen Gerrard had departed. But I would have Ben Davies back in there. I would go Cantwell and Lammers, seem as and I'm actually quite interested to see what happens with surely Danilo. Surely Danilo is starting, but you never know with this manager, but he's got to be starting. And Ryan Jack, I would imagine, is going to go in there, although his age exacerbated by his kind of injury problems and what have you. I don't know if the heavy pitch at Dens has maybe taken it out of him or whatever, but the manager doesn't seem to fancy Cifuentes just so far anyway. He's not had him involved yet, although he's been coming back from an injury. But I would get Cantwell and Seamer right, and get them play, and I would have Lammers, to be honest. I would have Lammers instead of Scott Wright, because Lammers did that thing. He was out on the right hand side against St Johnstone up at Perth and played a nice wee body tab for the goal for Danilo against St Johnstone at McDermott. So he can maybe go out there and we can get Cantwell into number 10. As long as we do something different from what we did in the league game last Sunday, I think hopefully that'll be enough to upset the Jambos.
Hopefully. The thing with Ryan Jack, it's a weird one because you want him playing on Thursday as well against Sparta Prague, but it's like,
I know.
Is he going to play 3 games in a week now? That's the thing.
This is where the injury to Raskin just really starts hurting us, doesn't it?
Aye. And I mean, I actually thought Cifuentes might have came in for a starting Wednesday. I was really shocked to see Ryan Jack start just because of that whole thinking in the future. But maybe Ryan Jack will be fit to start 3 games a week, and then it's just a case of letting him go after that, because we've got the Livy game the following Sunday, and then it's international break. So it might just be a case of burn them out in these 3 big games, and then don't play him against Livy and move on, and we can see what the likes of Cifuentes does. I mean, one final thing that I'll touch on, obviously it's injuries. They have been bad, but we are getting players back now, and it does feel like we say this every 3 or 6 months. We're getting players back for everything's going to be well. The difference is we've got a baldy Belger in charge now instead of Michael Beale. We've still got Dr. Ward doing the fake COVID test and all that, haven't we? So putting special stuff in our coffees in the morning.
Coffee, the coffee.
But it is good. Look, I mentioned Lammers in the number 10 position. Tom Lawrence is back training. He'll definitely, but imagine he'd be in the squad at least on Sunday. He's not going to start. Cantwell and Danilo, you heard the manager talk about they're not ready for 90 minutes, a full 90 minutes. They've got to be ready for a full 90 minutes now come Sunday. And it's like, if you're seeing the stuff that Danilo's doing when he's not fully fit, what's he going to do when he is fit? Dow and Cifuentes came back on Wednesday as well. Good to see them get a bit of game time. Dowell can also play in that number 10 position as well, which a lot of people forget about. So even if Lammers is doing poorly or Lawrence is injured, you can have him slot in there. So you did touch on the Rasker injury, which is, a shame, but at least we are getting the likes of these players back. And at the end of the day, once guys come out like Raskin and, Jack will probably come out at some point next week as well, it gives the likes of Dowell and Cifuentes a chance to go and stake their claim and for that place in the team, doesn't it?
Aye, that's it. It's just keeping it flowing. And I know there's a lot of cynicism out there, and we seem to be getting more players back as a new manager comes in and is doing well. And what have you, and Roma are interested in Borna Barisic and all that kind of stuff. It's just, it's a general feel-good factor, but we do need these players back as quickly as possible. And see the other night, Danilo, it's just to see somebody doing what they're supposed to do. It's been so bad the past few. You're forgetting what it's like. See the first goal when the ball gets played. Balogun, lovely ball for Big Leon, right onto his feet, but it's just all in the one movement. He's anticipating the run. He's watching the ball coming from behind him, Danilo. He's belting into the box. He's exactly in that inside left channel. And then he just all in the one movement, turning, knows exactly where he is. He's having the shot. And it's that kind of, it's either going to go in or there's going to be a rebound, which there was with such ferocity. And the goalie scores, he puts it away, standard finish, a little bit. The timing of his run, the combination with Sima as well. It's quality players reading each other and enjoying playing with each other. Fantastic to watch. Just one touch for Sima, perfectly weighted, absolutely brilliant. But he's had that finish when he just hit it low, kind of standard, low, tidy finish into the bottom corner, because about 90 seconds before that, I thought it was actually the most exciting bit of the whole game, certainly in terms of Sima. It was in terms of Danilo, it was the most exciting bit of the whole game, was when Tav clears the ball from our box, clearly he's knocking it up to Danilo, who's not the biggest, but he's basically got the two centre-halves, the two Dundee centre-halves at the halfway line, right up his backside. He just peels off a wee bit, turns round, nods it over the two of them, leaves them for dead. He's got the whole half to himself, piling through on goals. And I think a guy who's been out that length of time and is starting to enjoy himself again, he's thinking, I'm just going to do this World Cup style, top corner, and overcooks it, and then it goes into the stand. But it was amazing to see somebody who can lead the line. It was like Mark Hateley stuff. Halfway line, I'm your out ball. And just to be able to do that to the Dundee defence, two centre-halves, ball coming one way, he's facing the other way, the balance, the anticipation, and just the sheer skill and a bit of pace, as you say, for a guy who's coming back for injury, Craig. You're frightened, almost frightened to think what he's going to do when he's fully fit. And the wee layoff he has to Lammers as well, I don't think can be underestimated. Again, he's going backwards and he's knocking the ball the other way, which is an incredibly difficult thing to do, and he just tees it up for the big fella. I just thought Danilo was the most exciting thing of all the positives we had the other night. Most exciting thing other than the final scoreline itself. And I would just love to see him start to tear it up. I think, don't want to jinx it, but I think we could have another peak Alfredo and then some if we can get that guy a run of games.
Hopefully. Let's hope so anyway, mate. So lastly, Alec, what's the score going to be on Sunday?
I don't know. No, I don't know. But we know it's going to go extra time now, don't we? If we're going to win.
Oh,
so
God.
you've told me.
We need to end it at one point, right? We're ending it on Sunday. We're ending it on Sunday.
Penalties, 5-4 in penalties.
Oh, for Christ's sake. Oh, Jesus. Can't he put us through that on a Sunday?
See, when we were playing Celtic at Ibrox this season, Brian asked me what's the score going to be. I said 4-0 Rangers, and look how that went. So, short of actually saying Hearts are going to beat us, you should be glad that I'm talking it down, man. That's
a good point, actually. Whereas I can predict it, and I'll say 2-0. I think we'll do it. I think we'll be fine. Ladies and gentlemen, thanks very much for joining us tonight, spending our Fridays with us with the Pyro and the 0% Sam Miguel's. It's been good. I've really enjoyed it tonight. It's been a great chat about all things Rangers. If you have just tuned in or just tuned in lately on YouTube, you can always rewind back to the start of the podcast as well. It'll be available on all your usual podcast providers in the next day or two as well. And we will be back on Sunday, where hopefully we're talking about a Rangers victory and another place in the League Cup final, looking for number 28 for that one anyway. All that's left to do then is thank my guest, Alec, for coming on. Alec, thanks as always, mate.
No pyro, no party, Craig. Loved it, mate. Thanks very much.
Absolutely. Thanks to the guys at home as well. See you on Sunday. Bye-bye.